Well, hello there, and welcome to this episode of the Terri Cole Show. I'm so happy to see you. I want to start with a question. Do you identify as someone who is a kind and generous person? And does that sometimes look like prioritizing the wants, needs, desires of pretty much everyone else above yourself, above your own? If you're nodding your head yes, then this episode is for you, because I'm going to be talking all about how to avoid self-abandoning. What is self-abandonment, and what are things that you can do to be less self-abandoning and to take better care of yourself? So before we get into today's episode, if you are brand new here, please make sure that you hit the bell. Please make sure that you subscribe and introduce yourself in the comment section, because we're a friendly group. And I want you to subscribe so that you don't miss a thing, because I put out new stuff every single week, usually on Tuesdays and Thursdays. If you don't know me, my name is Terri Cole. I'm a licensed psychotherapist, a relationship expert, and the author of Boundary Boss, which you can get at boundarybossbook.com. And I also always say, and I'm so grateful for all of your comments and your participation in this channel, I read everything. So I love to actually focus and put a highlight on your comments. So today we're focusing on what Christy Johnson had to say under the episode, How to Create Radical Self-Confidence with Lisa Bilyeu. That was an interview with this amazing guest who has a book out about radical self-confidence. And Christy says, thank you. This hits home with me on so many levels. I'm struggling to find my joy, my passion, my purpose, now that my twin sisters are 21 and I can start refocusing on me again. I love the two of you together so much. You both are amazing role models. Thank you both for the incredibly helpful content. I've been enjoying Boundary Boss for months. I refer to it often, and I'm looking forward to purchasing Lisa's new book now. Well, right on, Christy. Thank you for saying so. I super appreciate it. All right, let's move on to today's content. All right, so let's start with some inquiry. Do you have difficulty sort of trusting yourself? Right, think about that. Do you find yourself being a boundary disaster? Do you say yes when you want to say no? Do you feel like you're suffering from people pleasing? All of these things are an indication of self-abandonment, right? So that's basically what we're starting with. This is when self-abandonment is when we reject or suppress or ignore parts of ourself, right? Where we actually are just stuffing it down. It's like not being dialed into our own needs and desires, because we're so much more dialed into the needs and desires of other people. So why do we do it? Well, listen, like everything else, I hate to say it, but it can all go back to the scene of the crime, as I like to say, which is family of origin stuff. We learn at a young age what to do to get any positive response or avoid negative response from the adults in our life. And again, this is not to say that those adults did any of this stuff intentionally, and it's not to say they didn't, right? So I don't want us to get caught up and focused on sort of blaming the parental impactors that we had growing up, simply because it's not helpful. I don't feel like we got to protect them either. It's just not helpful. What is helpful is understanding how your childhood relational patterns might still be negatively impacting you today, right? That's what this episode is about, and that's really what we care about. So if you feel like you are a self-abandoner, and I'm going to get into the ways, I'll have a list of things of what it looks like. As always, I'm going to have a guide for you, terricole.com/guide, where you'll have all these notes, so don't feel compelled to take notes. If you didn't get your emotional or physical needs met as a kid, and nobody got them met perfectly, but if you didn't get them met in a real way, it really does impact our self-esteem and how worthy we feel of love, affection, attention, and consideration from other people in our lives. So we have a tendency to just take those patterns from childhood and bring them into adulthood, just like everything else. And again, can also be a learned behavior. So in the guide, I'm also going to give you a few blueprint questions, because you may come from a long line of self-abandoners, right? That it may not just be that the parental impactors in your life treated you a particular way and that's it. Sometimes we see this modeled behavior, and the unconscious message that we get is, this is the way to be a man or a woman. This is the way to be a good human, right? This is the way to be in the world. This is how we're supposed to be. A lot of times, if you had a very self-abandoning parental impactor, that alone can do it, where you go, oh, okay, I'm just moving into that role. Now that I'm an adult, then this is what it looks like to be an adult, even if it's not in your best interest, because it wasn't in their best interest either, right? All right, so let's look at what are the things that might be happening in your life that can indicate that you are self-abandoning. Having bad boundaries, right? Being a boundary disaster is one of them. So it's like not saying what's on your mind, not asking, not making a simple request for what it is that you want and you need, and not setting limits with others, sort of setting yourself up to be taken advantage of, right? That's definitely one of the signs of self-abandonment. Also, always second guessing, having difficulty making decisions, not trusting your own gut, rumination, overthinking, all of those things also can be an indication of self-abandoning behavior. And also sort of giving it up to other people, allowing others to make decisions for you. And sometimes we do that by procrastinating so long that we let the situation make the decision for us. You know, like if you drag your feet long enough on something, either the opportunity will go away or the other person will then be forced to make whatever the decision is that they're waiting on for you. Or they're like, okay, well, if you're not going to decide, then I guess I'm just going to decide. So there's lots of different ways that we sort of get out of taking responsibility for making decisions for ourselves, because it can be really scary, but it is self-abandoning. Having the disease to please, right? The people-pleasing syndrome is another indication of self-abandonment, right? It's a lot of external validation seeking. Being a chameleon, right? So that's sort of like only showing the part of yourself that you think the people you're with or the person that you're with will approve of. So that then means stuffing down other parts of yourself if you think that they'll be disapproved of. Another indication of self-abandonment is perfectionism, because the amount of self-abandonment of needs that comes along with having unrealistically high expectations of yourself and other people. I mean, most workaholics, or many, I won't say most, I'm going to say many workaholics suffer also from perfectionism. And there is a self-abandoning element to that, because it's all about, even if you're exhausted, right? It's all about just getting the thing exactly right, even if that means not resting or doing it another 3 times or whatever. Perfectionism is so mean. It's just exhausting when you suffer from perfectionism, because it's almost like the perfectionism is the highest goal. So how can self-care and having a decent relationship with yourself be the top goal when getting it just right is always the top goal? It is exhausting. Having a really brutal inner mean committee is another indication of being self-abandoning. Just being really mean to yourself, saying the harshest things inside that in real life you would never say to someone that you loved. You just wouldn't. It's not your nature. So be honest with yourself if this is resonating with you, because it's really not okay. It is not okay to be awful to yourself and then to be lovely to the other people, right? You deserve that same loving treatment. And crappy self-care. Just not caring what you need. Just going, or just not taking good care of yourself. not sleeping the way that you need to, not fueling yourself with good food to the best of your ability, like just not having self-care is an indication. Because really what we're talking about is feeling unworthy of self-care. We can see how other people should have it, but the difficulty in seeing that you deserve it as well. Another indication of self-abandonment is numbing, right? If we don't like the way that we're feeling, we can numb it. There's many, many mood altering activities that we can do. Or we can repress those feelings, meaning we push them down into the basement. So somewhere we know they exist, but we are choosing to not focus on them. There's a lot of avoiding that goes on if you are numbing uncomfortable feelings because you don't know what to do with them, because you don't know how to have the conversation that you need to have, whatever the reason is. Also, another really big indication of self-abandonment is self-betrayal, meaning betraying your own values, how you feel, what you really think, what is really important to you. So when you act against your own values, that is self-abandonment. I had a client, actually I wrote about it in the book, who was a very decent, moral person and married a less than decent moral person. And this person came up with a scam for them to, she worked at a financial institution, and the husband came up with a scam for them to basically embezzle money. And she went along with it. Now she became a client of mine after the fact, but she was so ashamed and so, but it was like losing his approval was more important than that self-betrayal. And yet, of course, they ended up getting divorced, ended up getting caught, ended up getting divorced, ended up having all kinds of legal problems from it, jail and all. But this is why self-abandonment, part of why, and I share that story with you, because it's so incredibly important to be able to stay true to our own moral compass in a world that is lacking in so much of this. Even if it means having a hard conversation, even if it means the disapproval of people that you care about. Because ultimately, our own approval of us has to be more important. Because as much as she thought she couldn't live without him, of course she is living without him, happily and fine, and making amends for that mistake that she made. But it's taken years of healing from that act of self-abandonment. It's very painful. And the last one, which maybe is the mother of all self-abandonment, is codependency, one of my favorite topics to talk about. So what is that? If we're looking, what is it? It means you're focusing on the other person's stuff, their wants, their needs, their desires, as I like to say, their feeling states, their decisions, their situations, their circumstances, and their problems, their issues, what they need, and not focusing on yourself and where you're at and what you need and how you feel. All right, so what do we do about this stuff? Well, part of it is really we are reestablishing or establishing for the first time a healthy, loving, vibrant relationship with yourself. So the first thing that we're going to do is we want to understand where it comes from. I'm going to give you a couple of questions in the guide, terricole.com/guide, that will let you be able to make the distinction at what you saw in your childhood. What was modeled behavior for you? Because that's important. So that'll be the first stop. And then we have to dial into and get to know and understand our own feelings. One of my fave therapists, Sharon Martin, talks about checking in once a day or a couple of times throughout the day with yourself, right? And it can literally be like, I'm feeling, and identify the feeling. What do I need right now? And when we start to do this on a more regular basis, you become so much more fluent in your own feeling states. So I will have my therapy clients do this and put an alarm on their phone, and just 3 or 4 times a day, check in. right? Right now, I am feeling, name the feeling. I'll also give you a list of feelings. If you are not that fluent in feelings, it might be helpful to see it on a list. What do I need right now? And sometimes it's as simple as I'm thirsty. I need to drink some water, or I need to pee, or I need to whatever the thing is. But this is how we start shifting into a healthier and more compassionate and caring relationship with ourselves, is by checking in the same way you would with a kid, right? With a kid, you don't just let them go all day not drinking water when they're out in the sun. You're like, hey, come on over. You need some water, right? I mean, if they're too young to tell you that they're thirsty, or they're too young to know that they're going to get dehydrated. But again, thinking of yourself in that same proactive, loving way that you would, or that you do, a child. And moving back into the compassion piece. Instead of that inner a-hole being so mean, as my friend Jen Passeloff would tell you, that, she talks quite a bit about the inner asshole. Instead of going with that, be mindful that you don't deserve that caustic treatment. Be compassionate. That just the endless judging is just so exhausting. And it's not going to get you where you want to go. It doesn't make you better. Like if you were raised by parents who thought that being critical would then, really prepare you for the world or whatever. It just doesn't from a psychological point of view. I hate to break it to you. Now, I don't think we need to come from the point of view that everybody gets a medal either. But the reality is being supportive of yourself, right? And of children. Having compassion if they make a mistake. Of course, we want kids to learn from mistakes, but we need that same compassion for ourselves when we make a mistake. Stop holding yourself to that crazy perfectionistic standard that no one can meet, or just being so mean to yourself, thinking low of yourself. Because of course, I always say, and it's true, when you have a low opinion of yourself, who do we attract? Other people who will agree with that low self-assessment. And you, my dear, are amazing. There's no other you. In the whole history of the world, there has never been and will never be another person with your DNA. Your uniqueness, this is the next step in healing, is embracing and celebrating what makes you unique. It's not about being like other people. It really is just like being like you, because there is no other you. There never is going to be. So I think part of this is really allowing yourself to be uniquely you, because only you can do that. That's it. And then, of course, boundaries. I have so much out there about boundaries. Get clear about your own preferences, your limits, and your deal breakers. That is your job. If you don't know how, go buy my book or look on anything I've done in the past 10 years on boundaries. But it's important that you get clear about what's okay and what's not okay with you. Your boundaries are your own personal rules of engagement, and we've got to let people know what is okay and what is not okay with us. That is our job. So I hope that this was helpful to you. If you really have been self-abandoning, I hope that this will give you some tools and some inspiration to take better care of your amazing, unique self. Because really, we need you. We really do. If this was something that added value to your life, do me a favor and share it with the people in your circle. I would love that. I hope you have an amazing week, taking amazing, amazing care of you.